Hey guys, this is Sam from MoveMend, Rehab and Performance, and I want to spend some time talking to you all about how to structure an ACL Rehab gym program. After ACL surgery, the repaired ACL will take at least 9 months to heal to be able to safely handle cutting and pivoting activities like soccer or skiing. So in some ways, it's a waiting game, but while the ACL is healing and maturing, the goal of rehab is to try to regain strength and power that's been lost as a result of the injury and the surgery. This 9 months is the minimum amount of time someone should wait before considering returning to sports, but that should only be considered if strength, power, and movement competency have all been restored. So, how do you structure an ACL rehab program in the gym so that by the time your ACL is healed, you've actually gotten your strength back? The key here is making sure that you have a program that is properly designed and challenging enough to force your body to adapt and get stronger. I've seen too many athletes that are doing programs that are missing major components and are poorly structured or not actually challenging enough to drive adaptations in strength and power. If your ACL rehab program looks like ankle weight knee extensions, bridges, sideline leg lifts, and you're more than 1 or 2 months out from surgery, your program is not going to cut it. It's just not going to cut it. This program is way underloaded for anyone more than a month or 2 out of surgery to actually drive appreciable changes in quad or hamstring strength or power. The structure of a good ACL rehab program doesn't need to be complicated, and I like to break my programs down into 3 different sections: power, strength, and isolation. I'll jump into what should be done in each of these sections of the workout and give some examples of what these could look like in different phases of rehab. Let's talk about the power section of the workout. So power is our body's ability to do work quickly. It's essentially being explosive. There are too many athletes returning back to sport after ACL rehab that are lacking power compared to what they had before surgery. And as a result, jumping and cutting look awkward and don't feel normal. As a result, these athletes are going to try to offload their surgical leg, which puts both their surgical and also their non-surgical ACL at risk after returning to sport. I think the main reason that athletes are often lacking power is that explosiveness isn't properly emphasized throughout the entire rehab process. Power-focused exercises should be done at the start of the workout, after warming up, so before you're lifting heavy weights. You should be fresh so these movements can be done with quality. I like to break these down into shallow power exercises and deep power exercises. Shallow power exercises are ones where the emphasis is on being quick on and off the ground with minimal bend at the ankle and knees. Early on in rehab, these could look like band-assisted pogo hops and could be progressed to double leg pogo hops and further progressed more into single leg pogo hops. Other advanced versions are drop jumps and bounds. These shallower power-focused exercises target ankle and calf stability and are often overlooked after the early stages of rehab. Some variation of them should be included throughout the rehab process. Now, deeper power-focused exercises are going to emphasize quad, hamstring, and glute power and coordination. These are going to be a bit harder and will include a deeper knee bend. Early on in rehab, deeper power exercises could include step-ups and pause squats, both with an emphasis on an explosive drive during the upward portion of the movement. Later on in rehab, deeper power exercises could look like jump squats, box jumps, single leg box jumps, and depth jumps. Power exercises should be done earlier in the workout for an ACL rehab program, and at least 1 shallow exercise and 1 deep power exercise should be included in a good program. Power-focused exercises should be done at the start of the workout before compound lifts. So stay with me as I jump into talking about compound lifts. Compound exercises are bigger movements that should be performed after power-focused exercises, but before isolation exercises, because they're going to be pretty fatiguing. Compound exercises are ones where multiple joints are moving. Think squats, lunges, rear foot elevated split squats, and deadlifts. Movements where multiple joints, so the hips, knees, and ankles are all bending, compared to a knee extension machine, or a hamstring curl, or a bridge on your back, where only one joint is primarily moving. All of the exercises that I mentioned are ones that could and should be included in a good rehab program at some point in the rehab process, but I like to primarily focus on single leg focused compound movements. The main reason for this is that in a double leg exercise like a squat, research has shown that an athlete is going to shift their weight off of their surgical leg And this shift is not something that we can see without force plate and motion capture technology that are usually just in professional sports science labs. So essentially, an athlete is going to shift off of their weaker leg if they have the opportunity to, like in a back squat. So if the goal is to really target the surgical leg to build strength there, we need to be focusing on single leg exercises. So because of the shift, I really like the rear foot elevated split squat, and this exercise is almost exclusively loading the front leg. The back leg is really just there for balance. So the rear foot elevated split squat is a staple for my athletes throughout the rehab process. The key for compound movements is that they need to be loaded enough to actually drive changes in strength. The goal would be to do 3 to 5 sets on each leg of 6 to 10 reps, and if you're able to get more than 10 reps, the weight is too light. You might need different weights for each leg, especially early on in the rehab process, because the non-surgical leg should be challenged as well. But if you stick to this loading scheme for a few months, you'll see things start to even out. So compound lifts are going to be performed before isolation exercises. Let's jump into talking about more isolated movements. The third component of a good ACL rehab program, and the last type of exercise that should be done in each workout, are isolation exercises. So these are exercises where one muscle group is targeted. Think of knee extensions or wall sits for the quads. Think of hamstring curls on a ball or on a machine for isolated hamstring exercises, and leg lifts, side planks, and banded walks for the glutes. The aim for isolation exercises is to work the muscles that have been targeted during compound movements to fatigue in a way that you couldn't safely do so with compound movements. So if your compound movement, for example, was a back squat in a workout, your quads are going to get tired, but to get to the same point of fatigue for your quads as you could get to with a wall sit or a knee extension machine, it would be dangerous with a squat. So I would recommend that you do your isolation exercises after doing your power focus work and after doing the compound exercises. So do one or more exercise targeting the quads, glutes, hamstrings, and calves. Aim to do 2 or 3 sets of 10 or more reps. These should be higher reps. And make sure that by the end of the last set, the isolated muscle group that you're targeting is totally fried. Structuring an ACL rehab program in the gym can seem daunting, but it can be made relatively simple for most people. So after your warm-up, just to summarize here, you start with your power focus exercises. You choose one shallow and one deep power focus exercise. Next, do your compound exercise. I like the rear foot elevated split squat. And after you finish with your compound lifts, move on to your isolation exercises, choosing one for the quads, one for the hamstrings, one for glutes, and one for calves. The key is to take each one of these isolated exercises to fatigue. So this is a really general structure that I think could help a lot of people, but just realize that these exercises are not appropriate for every stage of rehab and doesn't include any of the sport-specific work that needs to be included before you return to playing the sport that you love. ACL rehab is a long process, and in order to safely get back to your sport as soon as possible, it's essential that you're doing exercises that are appropriate for you and your specific needs. Every PT has different specialties, and not every PT clinic has the background required to effectively help an athlete recover from ACL surgery. If you're recovering from ACL surgery and don't feel like you have the structure that you need, schedule a consult and we can help you get back on track.